Awesome. Okay, great. So it looks like we're live. I'm gonna have like some light jazz music playing in the background, so I'll only be unmuted for this first portion. But thank y'all who have already joined. We're gonna give it until, what time is it now? So it's 12:32. We're gonna give it until about 12:35 for all of our attendees to trickle in, and then we'll begin with the presentation. But just so that everyone is aware, this is the graduate school webinar hosted by Central Valley Scholars and Julianna Swilley. My name is Katya. I'm the events coordinator for Central Valley Scholars. Please just hang tight until 12:35 until we start. If you're curious, the reason audio and cameras and the chat is disabled for our attendees is just to keep all of your names and information private, but please do participate in the Q&A box. You can put questions and or comments in there throughout the whole thing. We may not get to them until the end, so just feel free to drop them as they come in, but we will definitely be getting around to them. I'm going to go ahead and put a little notice in the chat as well for people who keep coming in, just that we'll be starting at 12:35. Awesome. It looks like it's 12:35, so we're good to go. Thank you all so much for joining. This is Central Valley Scholars' graduate school webinar hosted by Julianna Swilley, she, her pronouns. My name is Katya. I'm the events coordinator for Central Valley Scholars. And before we get into the actual content and curriculum for today, I do just want to briefly go over a little brief history, an introduction of our organization for folks who might not be familiar with us. So we are an official nonprofit based in the Central Valley, composed of mostly current undergraduate students from the Central Valley. We have people from Fresno County, Kern County, Merced, all over the Central Valley. And we work to provide public workshops like this. So I'll actually share a link pretty soon with information about our upcoming workshops. We have quite a few happening today, so if you're interested, please stay tuned. It'll be the same Zoom link. But we do public workshops year-round relating to college for post-undergraduate students, but also current undergraduate or high school students. So please feel free to check those out. We also offer a mentorship program for high school seniors. It's just a kind of one-on-one program where you are assigned a student to basically just walk them through the college application process. That is if you apply to be a FemT a FemTOR versus a FemT. But yeah, we also offer over $12,000 worth of scholarships. They just recently closed, but they happen every year. So I encourage y'all to check those out as well if it's of interest. And with that being said, I will go ahead and move on to our land acknowledgement so that we can get into the content real soon. But for this activity, I encourage y'all to please just close your eyes, plant your feet on the floor, and just do whatever you need to do to get comfortable and be present in this moment. I know we're all in different places physically. Maybe some of us are not currently in the Central Valley right now, so this might look a little bit different for you. But for the purposes of our land acknowledgement, we're gonna be naming the Yokuts territory, which encompasses a majority of the Central Valley. So with that being said, feel free to close your eyes, take some deep breaths as I read off the acknowledgement. So I want to take a moment to acknowledge where we are, that the earth below our homes and below our feet is Yokuts territory and has belonged and been tended to by the Yokuts people for hundreds of thousands of years. When white settlers arrived to what we otherwise know as the United States, they enacted genocide and theft of the land, labor, and resources, attempting to wipe out indigenous communities entirely. It's important to acknowledge the land we're living on, and recognize our history in relationship to the ongoing legacy of colonization in the US, and to also recognize that the Yokuts people are still here and that through resistance and resilience are still in the front lines struggling for land rights, collective liberation, and an end to white supremacy. I invite you all to take a moment to think about your relationship to this land and its history, and let those who have come before us in the struggle inform us on where we're going, so that together we can reimagine and collectively build a world where we're all free. So with that, please begin to open your eyes again. If you closed them, come back into this space, and I'll hand it off to Juliana for the rest.
Thank you so much, Katia. Hi, everyone. My name is Julianna Swilley. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I will be your host today for the graduate school webinar. And so I'm from Dinuba, California. Go Amps, woo! And I'm an incoming graduate student at the Harvard Graduate School of Education, where I'll be specializing in a program called Learning, Design, Innovation, and Technology with a concentration in arts and learning. And that's just basically finding new ways of learning and like incorporating technology. A lot of design and curriculum development is involved in the program. And so I'll just be sharing about my process. I just got in earlier this year, so I just went through the process. It's very fresh in my mind. So I'm just gonna share any tips that I found helpful or anything that I wish I would have known now reflecting upon the application process. So previously I went to UCLA and got a BA in psychology, and then my minors were in education and visual and performing arts education. And then basically this year I've been working at an elementary school and then at the Hammer Museum. And I'm also part of Central Valley Scholars as the Black Youth Empowerment Program Director. So basically this workshop, I'm kind of have a little overview here. So we just did introductions. Then I'm going to share what to know kind of before you apply. So some questions to consider. These are especially helpful if you're kind of on the fence about graduate school and knowing when the right time it is good for you to go, kind of whether it's necessary for you to go. I know that was something I really had to consider. So just questions to ask yourself before even thinking about applying. And then kind of talking about how to choose a program, my process of choosing a program, and then what you'll need, like once you decide, okay, I'm gonna do this, and what kind of materials you'll need. Then we'll kind of go over the application timeline, and then tips for a strong personal statement. The personal statement is one of the most crucial pieces of the application process, just because that's how the readers really get to know you. And so just tips for writing, making that statement as strong as possible. And then once you're in, now what? Like, congratulations. I'm hoping after this, everyone gets into their dream schools. But now what do you do? So financing your education, that's a big one. and something even I'm struggling with, but I'll share some of my resources and tips. And then just talking about like different forms, transcripts, and how to prepare for going into graduate school. Because as I've as I'm figuring out right now, there's a lot of like little things I didn't really realize that I needed to like send in and do all that. And just knowing beforehand can, I think, can be helpful. So let's just get into it. Let's see. So what to know before you apply. Here's some questions that I asked myself and some questions maybe that I wish I asked myself. So the first one, do my career aspirations require a master's degree? So really thinking about what do you want to do? So for me, I knew I wanted to go into education, um, specifically arts education. And I know a lot of people in that field do have master's degree. And if I did want to end up teaching, um, which isn't on my track right now, but it was a possibility and still is. I know I would need a master's degree. So knowing that my specific pathway requires a master's degree, but if your career aspirations don't really require a master's degree, then it might not be worth the money. Um, to really go after it. So just really asking yourself that question. Is now the right time? Uh, Maybe for me, I took a gap year after my undergrad because I didn't know what I would really wanted to do. So I needed time to figure that out. Um, and then actually I talked to a friend who's in graduate school and asked her basically like, how did you know now was the right time? And she actually the pandemic was a big reason for her because she was like, we're not going to be able to travel, we're not going to be able to do a lot of these things right now, so why not just go to school? I was thinking about doing it anyways, why not take this time to do it? And I was like, wow, that's really good, good way of thinking about it. And so that kind of actually influenced my own decision of there's so much unknowns right now, and so just having that structure and thinking about, well, right now is right for me, but maybe right now is not right for you, and maybe you need some more time to figure it out. But just really being honest with yourself about that question. And that ties into the next question: am I willing to and able to make this commitment? So do you have the time to do it? Do you have the financial resources to make the commitment? Is a really big question because grad school, as I've been told, and I'm probably going to be able to experience, is going to be a really big commitment. And especially with time and like your own mental capacity. So really being able that you're able to do that. And then what are my intentions? So I think sometimes a lot of people, I know this was for me early on. I'm kind of one of those people that like has a checklist in life, and it's like, okay, when I was in high school, it's like graduate high school, check. Okay, now do undergrad, check. Um, and so really thinking, are you going to graduate school just because it's like what you think is the next step and you just want to kind of, oh yeah, this is like the next step in everyone's plan? Or is it like actually going to benefit you and your career aspirations to really move you forward? I think is something to keep in mind as well. What do you hope to gain once you've completed the program? Really knowing and understanding your program is really crucial because um, master's degrees are or yeah graduate school is really where you specialize in one specific thing. So like in undergrad I just liked education in general, so that's I also like psychology, which is why I majored, but they don't have the education major at the time. Now they do at UCLA. um, but I knew I wanted to be in education, but now I really get to specialize in curriculum development and designing learning programs, which was something I was interested in. I knew I was like, I don't really want to be a teacher. And so when I found this program, um, now I know I kind of want to learn and experience what kind of jobs are out there that do that, you know? So really knowing what you want to gain from the specific program. And then a big question that I know was a daunting one for me is, can I afford graduate school? it's going to be very expensive, although there are a lot of financial resources for you, and that I highly encourage you to take advantage of. But really, really making a budget for yourself and saying, is this possible financially in my life right now? Is always a big question. And then, what type of learning and student experience am I seeking? Um, so this one's kind of like, do you want to, I know right now there's a lot of online programs. Do you want to, there's a lot of fully online master's programs that are growing and emerging. I know USC has one that I applied to, and that was fully online, and the classes were going to be in the evening so that you can still, it correlated with your, like, you can still work for full time. So knowing like what kind of program for me, um, I really wanted it to feel like school and really be able to dedicate my sole time to this. So that's why I chose an in-person program where I could like be in the classroom and really put on my full focus. But maybe that's not the right kind of learning environment for you. It really depends, but really knowing how you how you learn and how you learn best. And then, should I consider a full-time or part-time program? Is something also. There are a lot of part-time programs. It will take you a little longer, but then you'll be able maybe to work full-time, and it maybe might spread out the costs for you. So just knowing that there's that option, and that it doesn't have to be like, I'm just dedicating myself to school um, for the couple years or however long the program is. So once you like go through those questions and probably ask yourself a million more questions, because I know a lot of late night thinking happens during this time. And now you're like, okay, I want to go into graduate school. Where do I start? Like, how do I choose a program? So for me, I made a list of potential careers and job titles. Like anytime I would like go to like a workshop or something, and I heard someone's like job title, I'd be like, oh, that sounds so cool. I like write it down, and then um, kind of looked at the different themes of like what careers interested me. Um, and that really helps you develop kind of where your kind of your career pathways heading. Talk to professors. I think talking to professors is so helpful because um, like they've been through it. They know the universities or they know colleges very well because they work there and they've had to go to school there. So just being able to talk with them. I know I had a professor who I went to his office hours, and he actually told me about that his master's program. He got to design it, and so he chose a school that was like, here you can kind of design your master's program, and just like you have to list out what classes you'll be taking, and then kind of you'll have to like present it to like a board or whatever. But like that's so cool. Like he just got to design his specific program. So if that's something you want to do, like try looking into that. And then attending workshops and webinars like these, I attended a lot of like online stuff, which is so helpful right now, especially. I've really gotten to love like workshops and webinars online just because I'm like, okay, I can just watch from wherever. So really taking advantage of that and like coming to webinars like this and really getting to hear people's experience is helpful. And then I think the thing I did like mostly is Google keywords. So once I kind of figured out, okay, I really like arts education, I really like designing like program design. Um, so I would like put arts education master's program or just like Googling keywords, and then you can kind of see there'll kind of be some like kind of overlying themes, I guess. So I kept putting like arts education master's program, or I would put like learning designer. And then that's when I just found out like learning design technology was like a common master's program in schools. And that's kind of how I found like the specific program that I really wanted to do. Um, and then considering the following, the location, are you willing to relocate to another state? because like maybe they don't have a program specifically in California or wherever anyone is from that's joining in here. But like knowing like where you're willing to relocate, tuition costs and funding opportunities. I think one of my biggest regrets in a way is like some of like the smaller colleges, and especially like out of state ones, um, will offer you like full tuition for some master's programs. So maybe looking into those if financial or like finances are going to be hard. There are those options where if you like master's programs can be like completely free. So if that's something, you might have to like move out to like the Midwest or something, but it's a possibility and to get like it fully paid for. And then like the type of program, like how was I was saying, like online, in person, um, like things like that. And then once you kind of figure that out, you want to do some program research. So talk to admission advisors, students, and alumni. Maybe you found a program that you kind of like, so you kind of like maybe reach out, go on LinkedIn, Google people, and be like, hey, like I'd love to hop on a video call with you, or just email with them to find out more about the experience that they had in that program. Just because I think a lot of times when we look on these websites, of course, every school is going to be like, we're amazing, like, oh my gosh, look at us, diversity. But really getting to talk to the people that are there is crucial because then I feel like they can give you a better sense of what the program, what the environment is like. And then focus on faculty. This is especially helpful in the application process. If you find faculty that you're interested in working with. So a lot of times schools will kind of want to see that you're like they want to see that you want to go there for a specific reason, and faculty can be a good thing to focus on. So for me, um, in my program, the director of the program is actually um, was like part of the development of like the curriculum development of Sesame Street, and I was like, whoa, that's so cool. Like I that would be like a dream job for me to be able to like do educational learning through entertainment. So I was like, whoa, that kind of like was a big push for me. And he actually teaches the class on it. And so I'm really hoping to get into that class. But that really was a big factor for me because I was like, that's something I'd be so interested in learning about. And so I was able to like focus on like that faculty member. And then finding out about this program's school or mission statement and using similar language in your application. So whether that's a personal statement, sometimes they make you write like little questions, like, oh, like why do you want to like little like 100-word questions or answers. So just maybe finding ways to like insert some of their language that they use. Um, and then search a list of potential courses. So some schools will like release like past courses that they've had, and so seeing if any of those courses interest you um, is something that I highly recommend because then you're like, oh, I'm really interested in this course, and then maybe you look into another school that you were really excited about, but you look at their courses and it's like, isn't really what I'm kind of leaning towards. So I think that can be a helpful factor in choosing a program. So like you've chosen a program and kind of seen the specific schools that you want to go to or that you want to apply to. So here's like a general timeline. Um, it's not like set in stone. So like it's but this is kind of like how I visualized the application timeline. So in March and May, I would say, also I didn't start from January just because I feel like a lot of people start thinking about this in kind of March and May towards the end of their undergrad careers, or when they're thinking about transitioning, like right before summer. So it's like in March and May, study for the GRE. For my program, I actually didn't have to take the GRE because they canceled like requiring it for COVID or the pandemic. So I really liked that, and that was also a big reason why I did apply this year, because I'm a horrible test taker, and so the fact that they weren't requiring it, and I was like, oh my gosh, you'll just focus like on my like personal statement, and like a bad test score won't reflect like my academic abilities. Just because I'm a bad test taker doesn't mean that I cannot like fully participate in this program. So that was a big reason for me. But if you are planning on taking it, I say start studying around March, May, and then just so that you can have full time to take it, whether that's over the summer or in the fall. Um, but kind of do that in the spring, and then begin your program search. And then in the summer, when usually people have more time, I say begin drafting your personal statement, and just kind of, even for me, how I like to write is I like to just like list out bullet points. And so I'll just be like, sometimes like late at night or something, like a sentence will pop in my head, and so I'll just like quickly write it in my notes, and then kind of have like a list of like, it looks like nonsense at first, but then I'll kind of try piece it together and add some like, not fancy words, but because I don't use fancy words that often, but like it kind of starts flowing together. And then still continue your program research in the summer. And then once fall begins, I forgot August, but August is supposed to be in this one. I'm just realizing that. You just want to start reaching out to letter of recommenders. That sounds weird. I don't know why. But this is when you want to reach out to them. However, I will say, um, I don't know, I'll talk about this more in later slides. You want to start making those like connections. I say like even before this spring period, you want to try making those connections as early as possible um, in your like academic journey. So usually in undergrad, you want to get at least two academic references. And so whether that's like going to office hours, if you just like have a professor that you really liked and you didn't really know, um, send them an email and just like try to make those connections, because those are actually like a big part of the application as well. Um, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. But you would should reach out to them around this fall period to give them plenty of time to write the recommendation. Um, and then sending personal statements to um, friends and family. So one big thing is for me is I like would send my draft of my personal statement to like anybody that would read it. Although I was very scared at first, and I was like, oh my gosh, like don't read my personal statement. I'm not the strongest writer, so I was like super nervous. But I have one friend who was actually an English major, and like she tore my essay apart. There are so many like edits, and I was so grateful for her, because I was just like, oh my gosh, this is what I needed. Like I needed someone to really look at this and like have a different point of view and a different eye on it. And so it was just like, it made my essay like 10 times better. But I also sent it to my cousin. I sent it to some other friends who really put some really good edits and kind of posed some questions like, um, maybe you should expand on this more, or talk about this less. So it was really helpful. So I highly recommend sending your personal statement, your draft, to friends and family. And then edit your resume is a big one. I know sometimes, for me at least, I like will send out a resume for like a job or something, and then won't look at it for a while, and a lot of things change. So really just making sure that you look over it again in this time period as well. And then usually around late fall is when applications will open. Um, And so then, and I say November through January. November is usually if you want to get like a early admission, and so you can kind of get an early decision on that. Is when like November, so like all this would like should be done by then. But then a lot of my applications, because I waited till like the general one, were due in January. So that's kind of like a big time period, but it really depends on the school deadline. But I would say it's normally between November and January. So that's when you want to finalize your personal statements, remind recommenders to send their recommendation, and just complete your applications. So making sure you answer all like the general information, making sure you answer all the little questions that they like insert there that you're like, what? I didn't know I had to write this 100-word answer to this. Um, so stuff like that. And then in February and March, um, you want to complete the FAFSA for graduate school. I'll talk a little bit more about this too, but you want to make sure you complete it just because a lot of financial aid from schools require it. So you still want to complete it. You'll probably get your decisions around this time, probably more around March, unless you applied to like early admission, like in November. So you might hear back earlier. And then you want to start looking for scholarships at this time. However, if you have the capacity to look for scholarships before this, I highly recommend it. It's just for, I would say, for me, a lot of the scholarships I've been applying to require you to submit your admissions letter, like saying that you got into the school. So that's why I just say like look for scholarships around this time, because then you'll have that admissions letter saying that you got admitted. And then in March and May, you want to accept and decline offers. So accepting, choosing a school and saying like, yes, I want to attend. And then the schools that maybe you got into, but you're not going to attend, make sure you decline those offers. And then apply for scholarships, like all of them that you can find. And then you're going to send some like transcripts and different like health forms and stuff in March and May. Uh, and then, yeah, then you can basically get started. So that's like general timeline. Um, and then, so these are the things you'll need in the application. Um, so the application fee, and these I actually didn't know they were so expensive when I was first applying, so I was like, "Why is this so expensive?" But it's like usually around $75 to $100. Could be less, could be more, depending on what schools you're applying to. But this is just like how I found it to be, like ranging in between these ones. But there are fee waivers available. Um, I will say I am the biggest procrastinator and actually miss the deadlines to the fee waivers, and I like cannot like speak to this more is like make sure you do this early, because I could have saved, like I applied to 4 schools, so I could have saved like $400 if I would have just like done this early and applied, because usually the fee waivers you have to do them like a couple months in advance, because it takes a while for them to be like um, approved. And so there are different, some schools have different requirements for who meets a fee waiver. Um, but a lot of times you can just apply it, and they'll usually they'll most of the time they'll waive it. So um, do that early. I cannot stress that enough. And then a lot of biographical or demographic information is needed, just like the general of most applications. But just know that it takes a little bit of time to fill that out. So make sure you can get that done. Your resume or CV. So resumes, like the one page, and that's what I submitted, because at the time I didn't have it, like a whole lot of experience, I would say. Or I guess I did have some, but I stuck to a resume just because that's what I had. But like now I use a CV, which I forget the exact what it stands for, but it's basically a longer resume, and it lists out like everything that you've ever done. Um, and so like now mine's um, a lot more expansive than just my one page resume, and it has like different specifications. So it's like the research that I've done, and then I can separate it to teaching experience, and then like professional experience, and then like some conferences that I've been a part of. Um, so like it, if that's helpful for you and you've like have a nice resume, you don't, some schools will allow you to submit a CV, and maybe that might help your application. So taking time to just make one and see what happens, and I think it's always helpful just to have on file. And then your statement of purpose, which we'll go into, is super crucial, but you'll need it, and it like ranges. Different schools require like different word counts, so just know you'll need like multiple of them for each specific school. So um, that should have been statements of purpose because you probably have to do multiple of them. And then the tests, these are some just like general tests that you might need. GRE is the most popular. TOEFL, I don't know how people say it, but it's like it's, I think it's the one for like second language. If English is your second, not if English is your second, it's like for international students. Um, but that's for this one. And then the GMAT's for usually for business school. Um, but just know if your school is going to require tests, that you'll need those scores. However, there are a lot of schools right now are not requiring tests and are considering not like requiring them at all. So if tests aren't your best thing, try finding a school that's not requiring them, like I did, and it might boost your chances. Who knows? And then just letters of recommendation. Usually it's two. You'll need two to three, and usually if it's three, it'll be two academic and one professional. So like a work reference and or like a coworker or something like that. Um, but just know that you'll most likely, like 99% of the time, you'll need at least two academic references. And that's like professors, um, someone from your past university, something like that. And then transcripts is something you'll need. So just making sure you request those early on in advance, either to be sent to the school or like I had to download it, an official transcript, and then upload it to the application process. Um, so just giving yourself time to do that, so that you're not like doing it last minute. Okay, and so this is kind of talking about, let me see, letters of recommendation. So something, I was really scared to ask for letters of recommendation, even though I had made some strong relationships with two of my professors. Um, just that ask is really stressful because you're like, oh, I don't want to ask you for this. Like, it can be like really like stressful. So here's just a template that I use. So, hello, professor. I omitted the name, but you can put their last name or whatever. It's been a while, but I hope you and your family are doing well in this crazy time. My name is Julianna Swilley, and earlier this year I participated in two of your undergraduate classes. So just listing like where they would know you from, because maybe if you don't have like that strong connection with them and haven't talked with them for a while, they're gonna be like, who is this person? So just knowing like what, listing like what classes you took with them, can kind of help them jog your memory. And then kind of just, I talked about um, how I benefited from the class. So I was able to reimagine what education can be, and was able to see firsthand how creativity can be fostered in the classroom. And then just saying I'm going to graduate school, and I wanted to ask if you would be willing to write me a letter of recommendation. You'd seen firsthand my academic abilities and creativity in the classroom, and I believe you can provide a well-rounded testament to my character and academic abilities. So that's just like a quick intro. And then you want to submit a short bio of your goals for the program. So I omitted it, mine, just because it was kind of lengthy and I didn't want this slide to be overwhelming. So just submitting a quick bio about yourself. So talking about I'm going into, or I'm applying to this type of program because I want to do blah, blah, blah. So it's like a mini version kind of your personal statement. Um, and then just listing out the programs that you'll be applying to and the due dates. So I just listed out the 4 schools I was applying to and saying like this is when they're due, just so that they can kind of see, okay, I'll have to submit 4, and they can kind of see if they have the capacity to do it. And then if you're willing, I'd be more than happy to provide a resume and kind of thanking them. So this is just a template. Um, Feel free to take from this template as you wish. Um, but I just thought it'd be helpful just to kind of see like the general how to ask, because I know this email took me forever to write, because I was like, I don't know how to word this. So hopefully this will be helpful too as you reach out to recommenders. And then just talking about the personal statement. Um, Sorry, these transitions are kind of weird, but it's okay. um, so the do's and don'ts of the personal statement. So the do, start early. I cannot stress this enough, but I hope this is a theme of this workshop, to start early, just because it saves you a lot of stress, um, and really just allows you to really take your time on the personal statement, just because it is such a crucial part of the application. And then, as I said, have multiple people review it and edit it, can be very helpful. And you want to be clear and concise. Um, I think a lot of people like to, oh, I have to fluff up my essay. Don't do that. People are going to see right through it. Don't fluff it. Um, and then you want to tailor your personal statement to that particular institution. So you want to talk about why do you want to attend that particular program. So inserting a part in this personal statement that's saying like, I want to go to this program because maybe you want to tie in a faculty. I want to work with Dr. So and so, and learn about their research on blah blah blah. So like insert it can be like that specific, or maybe you want to keep it more general. I want to learn, but like really making it specific to that program, because they want to feel unique and they're like, oh, this is not just a general personal statement. This is like they really want to come here. And then do your research and find unique qualities, and identify professors that you might work with, as I said. And then the don'ts. That's not up there yet. There we go. The don'ts. Don't write a summary of your accomplishments. I know in applying to graduate school, it's like, look at all these things I did. Oh my gosh, I'm amazing. And yes, you all are amazing, but you don't really want to write a summary of your accomplishments. And you should include like a bit about the past work you've done, but you should only include things that relate to the actual program. So like for me, and it was only like a tiny section of my essay. I talked about just how I did research in undergrad of the benefits of integrating dance in traditional curriculum, and just talked about like I was able to design curriculum in that sense because it related directly to the program. Um, but you don't want to like write everything you've done. They can see it in your resume. Rather, you want to write about um, how the program is going to help your future. So like I talked about, I wanted to learn about, well, I'll give a kind of summary. Um, I'll give a little snippet of my essay in a second, and you kind of see the sense of what to say. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. It's something I think is good. It makes you more relatable, and kind of, I feel like it can provide like a special connection and to you and the reader, and this makes you, I feel, makes the application more well-rounded. And don't forget to answer all parts of the prompt. And so usually they'll have like specific questions in the prompt, and make sure you just answer all of them, like really go through and be like, okay, I answered this here, I answered this here, just because um, that just shows that you're really paying attention and really mindful of when writing this personal statement, and that it caters towards this program. And then just a quick plug for Grammarly. This is not sponsored, but I use Grammarly and I have found it so helpful. I just insert it in my like Chrome extension, it's like done wonders. So I highly recommend because it fixes all your grammar mistakes, which I'm very bad at grammar. So yes. So this was a prompt for the program I'm actually going to, for the Harvard program. So it talks about, these are like the three questions that they wanted you to answer. What key experiences have contributed to your commitment to work in the field of education or with education related issues? Your objectives for graduate study, what are the academic and professional goals, and what knowledge, skills, and tools are you hoping to develop through enrollment in the program? And then why HGSE? So why this specific program? So why is this specific program and master's program and concentration specifically critical in helping you achieve your goals? And I feel like this last question is probably the most important that they really want to hear. So like, why do you, it's really talking about like your intentions behind the program. Why is this going to help you? And then just a quick note, the word count will range from 500 to 1500 depending on the school. So I know for this one specifically, it was 1500 words. So it's a lot longer, but I did have, I think my application to uh, USC was only 500 words. So I like really had to condense it. And I was like, I remember I was like, how do I do this? Like this sentence I feel like is so good and well written. I don't want to omit it, but you have to do it sometimes. So here's just a snippet of mine. This is like my introduction, and I can just read it out loud. As a college freshman, I struggled to keep up academically and sought guidance from a professor who prompted me to get creative. I took their advice quite literally and started to integrate my art practices within my studies. Over time, my new creative study tactics improved my overall understanding of various courses and made me excited to learn. I was then inspired to utilize this skill and develop an accessible program that integrates art within traditional core curricula. This goal has inspired my decision to apply to Harvard's Learning, Design, Innovation, and Technology program so that I may continue my efforts in promoting and increasing access to arts education. Um, so just make sure it's concise and just really stating in the opening, like this is why I want to go to the program and this is what I'm going to do after the program. So I want to be able to integrate art within core curricula. And that was something that I was very passionate about. That's something I am very passionate about. And so I know that Harvard has the arts and learning concentration. So I really um, focus on that concentration in my personal statement, just because a lot of the other schools I applied to didn't have that concentration. So just knowing that, okay, I really want to do this, and this is why um, this program specifically is going to help me get there. And then just I kind of added a bit of vulnerability, as you would say, in the beginning, because I did struggle academically as a freshman. Um, I did take like the pre-writing class, like because I didn't pass the test. And so I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm already behind. And so just knowing that like it was hard at first. And so I was like, how do I get better at this? And so just like I was very open about that in my personal statement. Um, I don't know how much of a factor that played, but who knows? I don't know what they were thinking, but I think it adds um, kind of, you're able to connect with the person and really get a sense of them if you add that. So you did a personal statement, you did everything, you applied, you're in, congratulations. Now what? That was a good transition. But I know we're running low on time and I'd love to answer any questions, so I'll just go through this um, kind of quickly. um, how to choose a school. You want to consider all options, including financial aid. So, they'll send you your financial aid packages usually before you have to um, say like, yes, I'm going to apply there. So, really seeing who's going to offer you the most money can be a big factor. Where it's located, I know for me, I'm like a big California girl. Like I'm like, yes, California. So it was a big decision for me to leave and go uh, basically across the country, and I'm still very scared about it. But I was like, when else am I going to get this opportunity? And so that really pushed me um, to say yes to Harvard. Also, they offered me the most money, so that helped too. So I was like, okay, like I kind of made a pros and cons list. Like they're offering me money, it's far, but I get a new experience. So just making a kind of a list of saying like weighing the pros and cons. Then you're going to have to send official transcripts. So even though you send them in the application, you're also going to have to send them to the school specifically. Um, so just knowing like that, put that on your checklist of things to do after you apply, that you have to send them again. And then usually you have to get health clearances. So this is something that I didn't know. Like I had to get like my shots updated. I guess I should have known, but like, and I had to get like a physical. I had to do so much, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is like, I was like, why do I have to do all this? But it's something you have to do. Just know that you'll have to do that. And like health insurance is something they offer, usually will offer student health insurance, but if you already have a health insurance that like compares, then you'll have to like waive the health insurance. So just knowing that that might be an extra task on your list. But then I think the big one here is applying for funding. So making sure you filled out the FAFSA, um, making sure you're applying to scholarships, and then like looking for maybe summer jobs or like continuing working before you get there, and even looking for jobs while you're there. I know right now I'm looking for some part-time jobs that I can do um, while going to school, just because it's expensive. I'll admit, it's gonna dig a hole into my finances, but I do think that for me personally, that it'll be a worthwhile experience. Um, and then connecting with peers and faculty. So right now I'm doing summer school, and I found it super helpful because like I'm getting to meet people first of all in my cohort, and then I'm also able, they have like TAs, so I'm also able to talk with TAs, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like they're like, oh, you can get this student discount here, like you can go to this place. And so I'm learning a lot about um, kind of like the things that you have to find out while you're there. Um, but I think it's really helpful. And then doing meet and greets, they often will have like, oh, you're in, like, let's all talk. So just attending those, um, they're online for me right now, and I found it super helpful. So I just like log in, and I'm able to meet some of the professors, some of the alumni. So that has been really helpful. And then emailing professors. I haven't done this yet, but I've heard it's a great tool to just like do a cold email. Maybe it's the professor that you mentioned wanting to meet, and just being like, hey, I'm going to be attending in the fall. Like, would love to get to meet you, and starting making that connection right off the bat. I am still gathering the confidence to do that, and I'm hoping to send it off sometime in August, right before I leave. So hopefully, I think that it's always good to really get to talk to professors, and um, maybe then you can create that connection again. And then how to find scholarships is something that's really big. Um, so the first one, fellowships and apprentices. So like maybe you want to be a TA, so finding out how you can do that. Usually it's like you have to take a class first, and then maybe the next semester you can TA for that class. um, that's not always though how it goes, but sometimes. And then just knowing that there are fellowships out there. I know in my gap year, I actually did a fellowship, and a lot of that money is what I'm contributing towards my master's. So looking for those resources, and how I just did it, I Googled, Google is like one of my best friends. So um, there are those options. And then some scholarship resources. Fast Web Scholarships is where I've been looking. That's a really good, helpful source just for, and just for grad school specifically, I feel like they have a lot more than other ones. Other scholarship sites. Sally Mae is another one, and some local scholarships. And I know we have some scholarships links. There are also some um, Instagram um, what is it called, profiles that I follow also, and they'll like share on their stories like, hey, the scholarship's due soon. And so I'm always on social media, so it's like it's just a helpful reminder, and so those are also very helpful. And school scholarships. So something that, now that I'm remembering, something I would like to mention is that um, a lot of times the school scholarships will be in the actual application as you're applying. Um, and so when I was applying, and then they're like, oh, write this like super long essay of like for the scholarship. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to come up with an essay right now, um, as I just finished my personal statement. And so just knowing that the school scholarships most likely are going to be in the in the actual application process. So just being mindful of that and that's why I say start early so that you can see whether they're there in the application, and then you can have ample time to write those additional essays. And then this is just budgeting. I have found super helpful. So I actually created this budgeting document, and then I'm actually going to, let's see, here we go. Now I have it open twice. Can you see this, Katya? Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is my budgeting template. Um, and also if you can drop those links, you can drop them all in there now in the chat, and this link will be in the chat, and then you can make a copy of it if you would like. So this is kind of how I've been budgeting. So like tuition, say it's like 50,000 here. And then actually, why is it not going? Okay, well, I don't know what's going on. I might have to fix it. But usually it will go into the total. And so it should go here. Oh my gosh. I think it might be my Wi-Fi. It's lagging. But you can kind of use this. And then you can kind of put all your fees in here. And then you can have the grants and scholarships, savings, and everything that you might need to use. I'm actually going to pause it right here. Maybe I can find the one I'm actually using. But I just have found that this is very helpful in seeing like how much I need versus like even just how I can budget at all. It can be really scary when applying to and seeing like those big numbers. It's like, whoa, like that's a lot of money, but really making sure that knowing that it is possible to fund these programs. Okay, sorry, I'm pulling up mine because I don't know why it's not going through. Okay, so this is kind of mine. Tuition is very steep, and then you can kind of put all these costs in here, and it'll give you a list, usually the school, and then kind of seeing like the grants, the loans that they're offering, and then I kind of put like work, and then like your amount of savings maybe that you have. Maybe if you get like a $5,000 scholarship, you can put here, and then it'll like fix the total here, and then now I only need like 15,000. But this is a resource for you, and I just recommend the link here. You can just press file, make a copy, and you can use it on your own. I'm open to that. Feel free to use this resource. I have found it very helpful in figuring out how to budget. Um, But other than that, thank you. And do you have any questions for me? Or anything? I am open to responding. I know we finished just on time.
Yeah, please feel free to drop any questions or comments you might have for Juliana in the Q&A box at the bottom right-hand side of the Zoom toolbar. I'll also drop in the chat really quickly. I hope it works. It is a workshop feedback survey, so if anyone has any feedback they would like to give, we highly encourage y'all to fill it out. It takes no more than like a minute or two. It just asks you to kind of rank your knowledge on different subjects that were covered before and after the workshop. So I'll drop the link. We'll also be sending it very soon, and a follow-up email. We'll also send a follow-up email to remind you all or notify you all when the recording of this webinar is posted, so that you can revisit it and watch it as many times as you'd like. It'll be found under centralvalleyscholars.org/resources, where all of our other webinar recordings are. I think because I have filled out the survey myself, it may not work. So I'll make sure to get the corrected link. Does it tell you you already filled it out when you open it? If that's the case, we'll make sure to get y'all the correct one. But we have a question in the Q&A box. Someone asked, how do you keep all your different applications and the requirements organized?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. And how I like to, I kept a Google Drive. And so like I have a folder that said like, it was just like graduate school. And so I like had, in that folder, I had different folders for each school that I was applying to. So I had each school, and then I kept my like personal statement for that specific school in that folder. And so it can kind of, or maybe like any additional, maybe you have like those little scholarship essays, you can add to those folders. But I highly recommend using Google Drive, just because I think a lot of people have that. And so just creating specific folders for each school I find very helpful.
Awesome, thank you, that's super helpful. Please continue to drop questions in the chat. I'm also going to drop Juliana's contact information in here soon. And Juliana, if you want to say anything about that, you can, like if you prefer email or phone or, you know.
Yeah, feel free to email me. Yeah, you can also text me. Like I'm very open to it. If you want any information about my specific program or anything that I shared, I can't promise I have all the answers, but I can try to find resources for you. But yeah, feel free to contact me. And I can drop my number in the chat as well, just because sometimes my emails can get a bit much and I won't see it. So if I don't email you for like a week, just like shoot me a text and I'll be like, okay, I'll look back in it.
And yes, I encourage y'all to screenshot any resources in the chat if they're helpful. And if there's no more questions, it looks like we're good to end here right on time. So yeah, no more questions. I think we're good to go. Thank you all so much for attending. As I mentioned and dropped the link earlier, we have a bunch of other workshops going on today after this. We're going to have a medical school workshop right after this, and then a doctorate program webinar after that. It'll all be on the same Zoom, so you can just stay on or revisit this link during that time, but we'll be taking kind of 30-minute breaks in between, so you don't have to be in front of a screen all day. But yeah, with that being said, thank you so much, Juliana. I'll pass it back to you in case there's any last words of advice you want to leave.
Yeah, thank you all for attending. I see someone has raised their hand.
Oh.
I don't know how to go about that, but yeah, thank you all so much for attending. Like I said, feel free to reach out to me. I want to be a resource for you, so.
Go ahead and message this person, see if they have a question. Otherwise, everyone is free to go. We can stay on with this one person and see if they have any questions for us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everybody. For the person who has their hand raised, you can also, I tried messaging you in the chat. I don't know if you're able to see it, but you can also put your question in the Q&A box, or if you have a comment, you can put it there as well. And also definitely feel free to screenshot Juliana's contact information so that you can continue to like pose questions there as well. I'm not seeing a response. Maybe they accidentally raised their hand. If that's the case, either way, they'll have your contact information, so you can always pose questions later. But thank you so much for being here and staying until the end, y'all. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Juliana. With that, we're good to log off. Thank you so much. This was great. And yeah, have a good rest of your weekend, rest of your day.
Thank you. Okay. Bye.